So I'm often hearing leftist organizations say that they're looking to find the source of global poverty or find a cure for global poverty. I used to hear this a lot on NPR when I listened to NPR in the car. But it's widely said, and for decades now, I've been wondering why they can't figure out the source and cause and solutions of global poverty. Should be pretty clear and obvious by now. The third world countries that are poor very clearly have a lack of freedom. They have a lack of property rights. They're often dictatorial or totalitarian, authoritarian to some large degree, especially in Africa. So, do people think about that? Well, if they had the same freedom as we do in the United States, the same property rights, the same legal system, the same level of corruption, high as it is, it's not as nearly as high as most of those countries. So, with our economic system, we're able to pump out a lot of goods per capita. Why can't African countries do that? Why can't Cambodia do that? Why can't Nigeria? Why can't Haiti? Well, it should be very clear they're not allowed to. They don't have property rights. They often can't own their property. They can't own their factories, or they can't keep the income they make from those factories, or their incomes are inflated away, as many third world countries have experienced. And high inflation wipes out all wealth. So, if those countries had the same freedoms and the same property rights and the amount of capital per capita we have, they would be producing as much as we do. Okay, well, you might say, well, they don't have the same education, the same knowledge and skills that we've developed. That's true. So I change what I say a little. They would have the capability to produce what we do. They might not be able to do it now without the skills and knowledge that we have, but they could soon learn it. Many countries that go from dirt poor to free and they quickly get well on their way to learning how to produce and get very rich. Look at China. So all of these countries, if they were free tomorrow, or free to the extent that we are, and could start accumulating capital, could start producing, could start keeping the value of what they produce, their economic state would improve dramatically within a year's time. Even without education, without knowledge. Okay, well, first they would be free to acquire the education and knowledge. But I guarantee you, those people, if free to go and get wealthy and improve their state, excuse me, they would figure out how. They would do it quickly. It's happened all over the place. Happened in Singapore and Hong Kong in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, when they were suddenly given freedom and had the ability to learn and find tools and technology and acquire the skills to use that technology and accumulate capital. They did all of that very quickly. They got educated very fast. They accumulated capital very quickly. They built tools, machines, factories. And then look at those countries today, full of skyscrapers. Hong Kong is almost wall-to-wall skyscrapers, the entire country. And they have few natural resources, no land to farm on, etc. They've just become fantastically wealthy. Same with Botswana in Africa. Starting, I think, in the 80s, they became dramatically freer, and they have become freer and richer through time. I'm sorry. All of the third world countries, or as a group, third world poverty has decreased dramatically in the last 30 years. And by chance, the third world country has become much freer. They have instituted property rights, reduced regulation. Inflation used to be rampant all throughout the world, which, by the way, is the reason that hedge funds did so well. They were investing in large part in third world countries where there was massive inflation, and those stock markets were going higher. They hedged the falling currency. Never mind. But the inflation rates that used to be experienced in those countries has gone from hundreds of percent a year, thousands, millions of percent a year, back down to 0 to 5, 8% a year. Capital controls have been taken off. People can send their money out of the country, or they can you can send money in the country. If you send money in the country, there's not a risk of it being confiscated, and locals can use it as capital, etc. Everything's become freer. Poverty rates have fallen dramatically. Guess where they've fallen the least? In Africa, which, as it turns out, has become freer at the lowest rate of any region of the world. The region that's become wealthiest the faster, Southeast Asia, has also had a dramatic increase in freedom in many countries, even the communist countries. I was thinking of non-China communist countries, but take a look at China. In China, they had full communism, such that in the 60s, they couldn't even produce enough food to stay alive. Families used to swap children, I think dead children, I'm not positive, so that they could eat each other's children to stay alive. This is true. Same thing happened in Ukraine. They couldn't even produce enough food to stay alive, much less much of anything else. Then, in the late 70s, I think it was, Deng Xiaoping, if I am saying the name correctly, opened it up because he had to. He saw that it wasn't going anywhere. Things were horrible. He opened it up, allowed some capitalism to come in, and they started improving. Then he opened it more. The more capitalism they allowed in, the better they did. Now China, even though it's called Communist China, has become so capitalistic that their economy has been growing faster than any country in the world for the last 30 years. That's why China is a global economic behemoth now. They simply became free. They allowed people to be relatively free and live their lives and produce and create, save, invest, trade, all pretty freely. So that's all it takes. It just takes freedom. That will solve global poverty. The leftists are out there trying to redistribute, and of course you've got to tax and steal in order to redistribute. But you don't need to. You don't need to steal. Just let people be free. Let them produce. Let them work. And every country will have more and more goods per capita every year. And if you don't inflate the currency, prices will actually fall every year as the supply of goods increases. Everyone gets wealthier. Everyone. And if you don't have wage controls, you'll have full employment. Everyone will have a job. So even the poorest members of society will get richer constantly as the supply of goods increases and prices fall. And that still happens in real terms, even with inflation. But you've got to let people be free. That's the key to solving global poverty. There's no mystery as to why there's global poverty or how to solve it. There's just the lack of will to do it. And even here in the West, we want to give money, as I say, and we talk about aid and this and that. No one talks about let them be free. Let them be free. Let them be free. You don't hear our politicians saying, just let them be free. They talk about democracy as though that's a big thing and really helps people. They don't talk about let them be free. Strengthen the legal system. Enforce property rights. Let people produce. Let them keep their income. Let them exchange technology with the West. Let capital flow freely. They don't say this. I mean, I don't support this really, but if we're going to invade all the countries in the world and start wars everywhere, if we really wanted to help people, which we don't, that's not what they're starting wars for, but if we did, start wars and just impose capitalism, not start wars, invade countries, just impose capitalism, kind of like Pinochet did in Chile, become a dictator and impose freedom. Make people be free by force, by not allowing any other negative force in. I don't propose that again, but that's all that's needed. People should be talking about freedom as a cause, as a solution to global poverty or any poverty in any country. Freedom, 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 capitalism. We see what it can do. We see what it can produce. Let people be free. That will solve global poverty.